You guys couldn't see it, but I squished my hand between the little armrest on my chair and the table, the desk, whatever it's called. I don't know. Y'all didn't see it, but it happened. Now my hand hurts. Welcome back, everybody, to Deconstructing Epic, the show hosted by a 16-year-old whose upload schedule is worse than the 2025 Rockies. Today, though, we are going over one of the most important songs in Epic the Musical, Just a Man. Song number 2, Just a Man. And I won't necessarily explain why it's important in this episode. I'll explain why it's important when the music from this song pops up in later songs down the road. And when we get to those, I'll tell you exactly why it fits so well and so perfectly. The downside is those songs are pretty far down the road, so that's a little bit of a problem. But let's dive on in, shall we? The first thing we have to talk about before we actually listen to any music, because of course there's something to talk about. There's always something to talk about. We have to go all the way back in time to opera. Now I can hear you guys screaming at me. What the heck does opera have to do with Epic the Musical? Well, it's actually a lot more than you might expect, and in a very interesting way too. You see, opera, or most opera music, English, is divided mainly into two big types of music. Types of songs, I should say. We have the first type, which is called recitative. Recitative music is basically just music where it's a story. The story is progressing. Think about big shows like Hamilton or Les Mis. Those musicals where it's non-stop music have a lot of songs where it's just the storyline going. There are very few songs in those shows where we just have one character basically having a therapy session with the audience, screaming their feelings, telling us exactly what they want. And so when we have the storyline part of the music, that's called recitative. When we have those character therapy sessions within the music, that is a different kind of music called aria. And Just a Man is an aria. We already saw a lot of recitative in The Horse and the Infant. We were in the Trojan Horse. We attacked the city of Troy. Zeus showed up and told Odysseus to kill a baby, which is pretty insane. But now, with Just a Man, what we're doing is we're going into the mind of Odysseus through the music. And it's interesting because through the song, Odysseus is basically singing to the baby. And it creates this weird feeling because the baby has no idea what's going on, but Odysseus is still singing to it, trying to understand, trying to figure out what he's doing, and whatever he does, why does he do it? And that is what we're going to figure out today. That is what we are going to figure out while we listen to Epic the Musical, song number 2, Just a Man. Actually, one more thing before we start listening to the music is that last video for The Horse and the Infant, there was a lot of musical stuff that I just completely forgot to talk about while recording the actual video. So what I did is I put everything I missed. I made a list. List. I'm a poet, didn't know it. Anyways, I put everything that I missed in the description, numbered and all the way down throughout the song. And I think that it's worth reading if you're really into musical analysis. I think it would have been better if I'd been able to explain it vocally to you guys directly, but I don't want to go back and re-record it, re-up. Anyways, just go read it. It's really good. Anyways, let's hop right in to Just a Man. Let's go. Sorry. First thing here, always, 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 just like in the last video, how I was explaining with Horse and the Infant, every song in Epic the Musical, listen to the instrumental. Listen to the accompaniment, all the music that is backing the vocals, because it's very important. Here, let's go back so we can hear what's going on again. What do we hear? We have some strings, but we also have a guitar, and specifically it's called a nylon guitar. And if we think back to Horse and the Infant, let's use our brains for a second. What was basically the first thing we heard in the Horse and the Infant? It was an electric guitar that like dun 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 dun. And so there was an electric guitar there, and let's try to relate it to how Odysseus is feeling. Odysseus is hyped up in that moment. He's trying to like hype. He's hyped up. He's trying to hype up his men for their attack on Troy, and so the electric guitar is a very good way to represent that musically, because the electric guitar is very down down, like it's very what's the word? I can't even think of it right now, but I think you understand what I mean. Now in Just a Man, when we're going inside the mind of Odysseus, and he's very it it gives us it gives off a very calm feeling, but it's still a guitar. It's still a guitar. It's just a different type of guitar. So what Jorge Rivera-Herrans, the composer of Epic the Musical, what he's doing is he's first of all attaching Odysseus to the guitar. We had the electric guitar in Horse and the Infant, and now we have a nylon guitar in Just a Man here. Then let's talk about the second thing that we hear in this little part of the music. It's the strings. When we heard the strings in The Horse and the Infant, what was Odysseus thinking about? If you remember, he was thinking about his family, specifically Penelope and Telemachus. And so when we hear these strings now, we are also subconsciously thinking about those two characters, even though we haven't even met them yet. Odysseus is thinking about his family. He's in this calm state of mind, and we are intrigued to find out what's happening. Jorge is such an amazing writer and composer, and let's really get into the song because there's some stuff to unpack. Starting at the beginning again.
I look into your eyes and I
Remember, he's singing to the baby.
back to the son of mine. You're as old as he was when I left for war.
Let's think about what he just said right there. He said, I look into your eyes and I think back to the son of mine. So just like how in the music we heard those strings, he was thinking about his family. We have it confirmed basically that looking at this baby, looking into the eyes of this infant, he's thinking back to his family. See how the music and what's happening in the story, just like in Horse the Infant, in Just a Man, it's very closely intertwined, and Jorge does that beautifully. We'll see throughout the rest of the musical, in fact. And so, yeah, let's just keep going.
Will these actions haunt my
These actions, remember, Odysseus was instructed to kill the infant.
Is the price I pay endless pain? Close your eyes and spare yourself the view. How could I hurt you?
How could I hurt you? It's a baby, just like we talked about last video. It's a baby. How are you going to kill a baby? Even though it is going to grow up and slaughter your entire kingdom. But anyways, it's a baby, okay? Let's keep going.
I'm just a man.
We hear that, Just a Man.
Who's trying to go home, even after all the years away from what I've known. I'm just a man who's fighting for his life. Deep down I would trade the world to see my son and wife. I'm just a man.
In that chorus here, there's a bit of stuff to unpack. First of all, he's saying, I'm just a man. And what this does is it very, very clearly and openly expresses all the imperfections that he sees within himself. And he's saying, I'm just a man who's trying to go home. If I have to kill this baby to go home and make sure that my family is safe, I feel like I need to do that. But just like he said last line, how could I hurt you? And so there's this inner conflict that's happening between Odysseus. And we even hear that in the way the music is structured. He goes, I'm just a man who's trying to go home. It's this like kind of staircase that's going down and back up. Even after all the years away from what I've known. In there, it's you can kind of argue that it's spiraling with those like little like da da da. Even after all the years away from what I've known, kind of hear that it's spiraling. Sorry, that's just something that my brain focuses on. And then he goes back to that. I'm just a man who's fighting for his life. Deep down, I would trade the world to see my son and wife. I'm just a man. Those lyrics I've always found really interesting. Deep down, I would trade the world to see my son and wife. And this almost kind of sounds like foreshadowing. Like deep down, I know that there's so much that I can't even dream of doing right now, but I would in order to get back and see my son and wife safely. And so it sets up this like what's it called? Gosh, I don't have a script for these. I'm just like going off the top of my head, which is why there's a bunch of stuff that I miss musically, lyrically, everything. But it sets up this almost like a worldview where his son and his wife, his family, are the most important thing to Odysseus. And they're so important that he doesn't even know what he'd give up to keep them. He doesn't even know what he'd give up to keep them. That's so interesting. And then he goes back to, I'm just a man. Noticing how he doesn't necessarily know if this is the best course of action to take, but it is how he feels. He is just a man. And then listen to these next words.
I'm just a man. But when does a comet become a meteor? When does a candle become a blaze? When does a man become
There's a lot of metaphor here.
When does a ripple become a tidal wave? When does the reason become the blame? When does a man become a monster?
And then the background singers come in. But these questions that he's asking in his head, what's the common theme with them? When does a comet become a meteor? When does a candle become a blaze? When does a man become a monster? Remember, he is just a man. And he goes back to, when does a ripple become a tidal wave? When does the reason become the blame? And then he repeats it. When does a man become a monster? Repetition always means that it's very important. Like back in the first song where he sings, Penelope, Penelope, he sings it twice. It's very ingrained in his brain. Here, this question, when does a man become a monster, is very ingrained in Odysseus's brain. And as such, it should be ingrained in our brains while we listen to the rest of the story. But these questions, my favorite is, when does a candle become a blaze? That's my favorite one of these questions, because it's something simple, almost harmless, going out of control and like not tied down, and it's fully free. It can do whatever it wants, but it's also destructive. It's very destructive. And so that's the question. This is the foreshadowing for whatever is going to happen in the rest of the musical, because Odysseus is just a man. When does a man become a monster? How far is Odysseus going to go to get back to his wife and his son? I mean, I know because I've listened to this musical before, and hopefully you have too. But let's keep going because there's a couple more interesting things I want to point out right at the end of this song. Listen to what Odysseus is saying here. We have the chorus in the background. Odysseus is saying, forgive me.
I'm just a man.
First of all, those vocals are beautiful, and that's the end of the song. But he's saying, forgive me. He repeats it. Remember? Repetition. Forgive me. Forgive me. Forgive me. And then he says, I'm just a man. Almost as a justification for what he's doing. And remember, he was tasked with killing this infant baby. I think from these words and from the music building up, listen to how the music builds up here.
Does a comet become a meteor? When does a candle become a blaze?
You hear those big hits. It's growing exponentially. And then it all drops out. And this last line is just a cappella, straight a cappella. I love that little echo. I don't know if you heard that, but there's like a little bit of a...
I'm just a man.
That echo is beautiful. Oh gosh. But I think it's clear from the words and the music that Odysseus does in fact kill the baby. Canonically, he kind of drops it off of a wall. I don't know why he wouldn't just stab it. But anyways, sorry, we're getting out of hand. Yeah, that's just a man. That's just a man. Let me put it back at the beginning. Preparing to just listen to the whole thing all the way through. But we can hear this musical conflict inside Odysseus. He wants to get back to his wife and his son because because they are the most important things to him in the entire world. More important than his crew, more important than this baby, more important than anything on his ship, on his fleet of ships. They are the most important. And he's looking at this baby and he's remembering his son. And he doesn't want to kill this baby because it's a baby. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And he finally decides to kill it. And he justifies it with, I'm just a man. Maybe a little bit of a hint of regret in his mind after what he does. But he still has a reason for doing it. And honestly, I kind of agree with his reasoning. This baby's gonna grow up, slaughter his entire kingdom. It's a hard decision, but you know what the right decision is right when, you hear what you have to do. Anyways, with that being said, let's go back, listen to the music, listen to the song all the way through. I'll be quiet. I might even take off my headphones. Actually, no, I want to listen to it. Anyways, yeah, listen to everything that I've talked about throughout this and really feel the conflict that Odysseus is feeling. And we'll end it after the song.
I look into your eyes and I think back to the son of mine. You're as old as he was when I left for war. Will these actions haunt my days? Every man I've slain is the price I pay. Endless pain. Close your eyes and spare yourself the view. How could I hurt you? I'm just a man who's trying to go home, even after all the years away from what I've known. I'm just a man who's fighting for his life. Deep down I would trade the world to see my son and wife. I'm just a man. But when does a comet become a meteor? When does a candle become a blaze? When does a man become a monster? When does a ripple become a tidal wave? When does the reason become the blame? When does a man become a monster? When does a comet become a meteor? When does a candle become a blaze? When does a man become a monster? When does a man become a monster? I'm just a man.
It's a beautiful song. It's a beautiful song in a beautiful musical. Oh gosh. Anything that I missed today, I will leave in the description down below. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope you learned something about recitative aria, about Odysseus' inner conflict, and especially remember that foreshadowing. It's very apparent in the song. When does a man become a monster? Remember that as we go throughout this entire musical. Next time, we are going over Full Speed Ahead, one of my favorite songs in the entire show. So stay tuned for that because it's going to be awesome. And there's a couple things that we need to discuss going through that. But yeah, if you like this video, leave a comment if you want to. Yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.